Hi everybody, I hope this video finds you well. In today's video, I will be introducing our class, Math 191, and going over the syllabus for our course. Let me start by saying a little bit about the structure of our class. Our class will be taught in what is called an asynchronous manner. This means that there will be no mandatory meeting times during the semester, and all the content will be delivered to you via lecture videos on YouTube. We will also be making a lot of use of our Canvas page. On our Canvas page, you will find the files you need for our class, announcements, discussion boards, and your grades. You will also be submitting all of your assignments via Canvas. Further, let me take this chance to go ahead and comment here on the fact that this is the winter semester. That means that we are taking a 16-week course and converting it into a 5-week session. We're going to move at over 3 times the normal pace. This means that the expectation is that you will need to spend somewhere around 3 hours on lecture materials and another 1 to 2 hours on practice problems and assignments per day. This will be a busy and challenging class. It will also be very important not to fall behind and to reach out whenever you have questions. In a condensed semester like this one, you want to reach out for help early and often. With all that being said, what is Math 191 really all about? Well, in simple terms, it is a direct continuation of what you learned in Math 190. In Math 190, you study the concepts of limits and differentiation thoroughly and introduce the concept of integration. In this class, we will continue to investigate integration from computational, conceptual, and application perspectives. However, our course does not solely focus on integration. Instead, we will generalize the concept of integration to the concept of accumulation, and we will spend much of our time examining what happens when you accumulate an infinite amount of infinitesimally small things. This investigation will be done primarily through the lens of sequences and series, which are in some ways a discrete counterpart to integration. Finally, the end of our course will serve as a preparation for Math 220 by introducing you all to differential and integral calculus on different coordinate systems. In summary, there are a lot of interesting aspects to this course, and in some ways this will serve to many of you as the first introduction to pure mathematics. Now that we've talked about a brief overview of the content and delivery of our class, let's dive into the main part of the syllabus with an introduction. My name is Ben Mitchell, and I'll be your instructor for the next 5 weeks for our class. The first thing I want to call your attention to on our syllabus are the contact methods and contact information. Since this class is completely online, I want to make sure you all know the different ways you have of reaching out and asking questions in this class. For our course, you will have 3 main ways of reaching out to me. First, you can always send me direct emails at bmitchell@elcamino.edu. Second, we will have weekly office hours via Zoom. Those are listed on the front page of Canvas, and they're also listed at the top of your syllabus. Those times for our term will be Wednesdays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. and Fridays from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Sometimes before exams we'll have additional office hours, but you can be assured that these 2 times will occur each week. On the morning of each of these office hour sessions, you'll receive a Zoom link via your email, and you can use that to sign on and join these office hours. Finally, the third and final method of communication we have is that for all major sets of practice exercises, review guides, and take-home assignments, we will have Canvas discussion boards. So, in summary, our 3 modes of communication are direct email, Zoom office hours, and Canvas discussion boards. My general recommendation is that you send personal or grade-related questions via email. You ask in-depth content questions during Zoom, and ask quicker content questions via the discussion boards. However, you should always feel free to utilize all of these methods of communication in whatever way works best for you. The most important thing in an online class like ours is to be proactive with your communication. This is made doubly, or perhaps triply important by this being a fast-paced winter class. In other words, if you have questions at any time about any aspect of our class, always reach out right away. All right, with all that being said, let's continue on into the meat of the syllabus here. We've already talked about these office hour times here and the email. In terms of prerequisites, the main thing is that this is a direct continuation of your Math 190 course. So a lot of the concepts in Math 190 will be essential to this class. We'll need knowledge of limits, derivatives, and basic integration right away in our class. You'll find a Math 190 practice problem set and practice sort of review video on your YouTube playlist already. I highly recommend, before this class even starts, taking a look at some of those problems, watching that review video, and making sure you're comfortable with all the necessary pieces from Math 190 for this course. In terms of describing our class, this is the official description. I've already talked a lot about how really this course focuses first on sort of building up and delving deeper into integration. Then we'll spend some time on the discrete counterpart to integration, sequences and series. And then we'll finally sort of move to a preparation for Math 220, which is calculus on different coordinate systems. All right. Let's talk a little bit about required materials for this class. So the only thing in terms of outside resources that you need for this class is a textbook, which is Calculus Early Transcendentals by James Stewart, the 8th edition. This textbook is absolutely essential to have for a number of reasons. First, the actual sections of the textbook are great supplements to the material that you'll learn in lecture videos. My lecture videos are named and based off of each section of the textbook, so they go hand in hand with the textbook sections. Second, you'll need this textbook because while some of the practice problems that I give you guys are written by me, a lot of them are also chosen from the practice exercises at the end of each section. So you'll need this textbook, and specifically the 8th edition of this textbook, to have those practice problems. Does it matter the format of the textbook? Absolutely not. You can have the physical hard copy. I think there might be a soft copy or a loose leaf copy available as well. You might even have an online PDF version. It doesn't matter as long as it's the 8th edition. The edition, and the textbook name obviously, is all that is really important here. Do you need anything else for our course? Well, aside from internet access and obviously access to Canvas and those things, no, right? A calculator is permitted, but not required. There's not going to be a lot of arithmetic type computations that you would need a calculator for. So if you have one, you can feel free to use it, but you will not need a calculator for our class there. All right, so in summary, for required materials, obviously the basics are, since it's an online course, you need to have online access, and you need to be able to access our Canvas site and all those things. The only other required material is our textbook, Calculus Early Transcendentals by Stewart, 8th edition. Nothing else is necessary for the class. All right. There's a big list of course objectives and student learning outcomes. We're not going to talk about those in depth right now. I do think, though, sometimes it's fun towards the halfway point or towards the end of the class. You can go back over, read these, and it's sort of a nice checklist to sort of see how far you've come, especially in such a short period of time, like 5 weeks in this winter session. You'll come back, you'll see this giant list of objectives, and you'll say, wow, I know all these things now. It's a nice, satisfying feeling. But for now, let's move on to page 2 of our syllabus. So on page 2, we'll get to probably one of the most important things in terms of just performance, right? Which are the grading policies. So for this class, we have a very simple and sort of straightforward grading system. You guys have 3 categories of assignments, and they each receive a weighted percentage for your overall grade. That means the individual points that are assigned to each assignment is not relevant overall. It's the percentage of the category that matters. The good thing is that Canvas will handle this weighted percentage very easily. So the grade that you're seeing on Canvas will be very accurate to what your overall grade in the class actually is, right? There's nothing about wondering, oh, the Canvas is saying this, but what do I really have in the class? Whatever Canvas says you have in the class, that is actually what you have in the class. So let's talk about what those three categories are. We will have 4 take-home quizzes during the term. That makes up 20% of your overall grade. We will have 3 midterms. That'll make up 45% of your overall grade. And we will have a comprehensive final exam, which makes up the remaining 35% of your grade. We have a very standard grading scale. If you've taken other classes at El Camino, you know that we do not do a plus-minus system. So the only letter grades that are available are A, B, C, D, and F. And we just do a standard breakdown. A is 90% and above, B is 80 to 89, C is 70 to 79, D is 60 to 69, and F is 59% and below. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about each of these categories. So first, we have quizzes. We call these take-home quizzes, and there will be 4 of these during the term. When these quizzes are assigned, you'll generally have about probably 5 to 6 days to complete each one. For example, the first quiz is due on the first Saturday. So we start our class on Monday, and the first quiz will be due on the following Saturday. So generally, you have about 5 to 6 days to complete each quiz. These quizzes are open for discussion. There will be a Canvas discussion board for each quiz, so you can post questions on there. You can discuss the quizzes with your classmates. You can reach out and ask questions about the quizzes to me. If you want me to take a look at the work that you have for a quiz, I'm happy to do that. These quizzes, while they are graded, are really there for your benefit. They're making sure that you're understanding the concepts that we're covering here. So don't hesitate to ask questions about the quiz materials. The quiz due dates are all listed on the front page of Canvas, and they're already preset in advance. You can see that the first quiz is due on Saturday, January 8th. Second is Sunday, January 16th. Then one on Monday, January 24th. And finally, the last one on Tuesday, February 1st. All of the quizzes are always due by 11:59 p.m., so at the very end of the day. Quizzes, like all of the assignments in our class, will be submitted electronically via Canvas and must be submitted as a single PDF file. Submissions that are late or in an incorrect format will be penalized, and there'll be details about that on each assignment, so you can always be reminded about it. And then lastly, but very important, details about how to make these electronic submissions can be found on Canvas. If you log into Canvas after watching this video, you'll see that in the File section, there's a folder that is called the Electronic Submissions Guidelines. If you go in there, you'll find a document that'll walk you through how to make an electronic submission. You guys have a lot of flexibility in that. You can use any sort of app that you like. Some people like to work on tablets and export their work as PDFs. That's fine. Other people like to work by hand and then just scan the handwritten documents into a PDF format. That's fine as well. The only requirement for submitting assignments in our class is to make sure that they come out as a single PDF file. If you ever have any questions about submitting assignments in our class, always feel free to reach out and ask about those, right? I never hesitate to ask about the sort of logistics or how we sort of do things in our class. I'm always happy to answer those questions. And in fact, there's a general course questions discussion board on Canvas. If you ever have any questions about the structure of our class, feel free to post them there. So, in summary, the first category are these take-home quizzes. There's 4 of them during the term, and they are always open for discussion amongst each other and with myself. So always feel free to ask questions about those quizzes. The next category are our midterms. We have 3 midterms during the semester, and once again, those dates are all preset. They're listed here on the syllabus, and they're also listed on the front page of Canvas. Your first exam will be on Monday, January 10th. Second one will be on Tuesday, January 18th. And the third one will be on Wednesday, January 26th. Midterms are a little different than quizzes. Instead of being open for 5, 6, 7 days, they're made available at 9 a.m. and then due by 5 p.m. the same day. So when you take your midterms, you have an 8-hour window to complete the exam. Does that mean that the exams are written to take 8 hours? Absolutely not. The exams are written to take about 2 hours. I would anticipate that because often working at home is a little less efficient than working in conditions like if we were in the classroom, I would anticipate that the exams will probably take somewhere between 3 or 4 hours. But keep in mind, you have the entire 8-hour window to work on them. That means you can use as much or as little of that 8 hours as you like. If you want to work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the exam, you can do that. If you only need 3 or 4 of those hours, then that's all you need to use. So exams are made available at 9 a.m. and due by 5 p.m. the same day. What are the policies for working on the exams? Well, our class is an open note class, which really means it's an open course material class. So when you're working on your exams, you're allowed access to your notes. For the midterms, you're allowed access to our lecture videos, our practice problems, any of the stuff that is our materials. You can look through your textbook, whatever you sort of like. What are you not allowed to use while working on the exams? Well, you're not allowed to discuss or work on the midterms with anybody else in the class. So while the quizzes are open for discussion with each other, the midterms are not. The second thing you're not allowed to use during midterms are any outside materials or contacting any outside individuals while working on the midterms. In fact, this is sort of a general course policy. The use of outside materials for our class in terms of alternate problem solving or alternate methods is not allowed. You want to use the materials that are presented in our class. In terms of submissions, midterms will be submitted basically identically to quizzes. They're submitted electronically. They must be submitted as a single PDF file. And they're going to be submitted through Canvas. So in terms of the submission style, quizzes and midterms submitted exactly the same way. Keep in mind that no makeup exams will be given. That's why I'm setting these dates ahead of time so you know when to anticipate these exams. If for some reason a midterm is missed, due to an emergency or something, one exam score can be replaced by the final exam score. This also applies even if you don't miss any midterms. It applies if the final exam is just simply better than one of your midterms. So, for example, if one of your midterms does not go particularly well or as well as you would have liked, if you do better on the final exam score will be used to replace that lowest midterm. This replacement only applies to one midterm score. So if you miss 2 midterms, well, it's going to be very hard to pass the class because one of those is going to remain as a 0, right? The final exam is only going to replace one midterm score. Again, submissions that are late or in an incorrect format will be penalized. While a midterm is not open for discussion with your fellow students or asking me about questions for the exam, you're still always welcome to ask questions about the submission, or if you ever have any questions about how to navigate through Canvas, always feel free to reach out about those. Finally, the last category we have is the final exam. Final exam is very similar to the midterm. The only difference is that the final exam is a comprehensive exam. Each of the midterms just focuses on the material since the previous midterm. So in other words, the first midterm covers the material we learned at the beginning of the class. The second midterm covers the material post-exam 1 up until we take exam 2. And then midterm 3 covers the material from after exam 2 up to the time we take exam 3. The final exam is different because it is a comprehensive exam. So it covers everything from the very beginning of the class to the very end of the class. It is held on the last day of class, which for us is Thursday, February 3rd. The final exam, just like the midterms, is made available at 9 a.m., but it is a bit longer. So instead of being due by 5 p.m., it is due by 9 p.m. So you have a little bit more time. In terms of policies, it's the exact same policies. You're allowed access to your notes, our course materials, our lecture videos, your textbook, any of the things that we have used for our class are open for you to use while taking your final exam. You're not allowed to discuss it with anyone else in the class, and you're not allowed to use any outside materials or contact any outside individuals while working on your final. Once again, your final will be submitted electronically via Canvas and must be submitted as a single PDF file. So, in summary, we have 3 categories for our class. We'll have 4 take-home quizzes, 3 midterms, and 1 final. All of these will be submitted via Canvas electronically as a single PDF file. All of them are open course material, so you can always use any of the things that we have in our class as you work on these. Quizzes are open for discussion with your fellow students and with me. Midterms and the final exam must be done individually without any discussion. All right, so that was a lot of information there, but that's one of the sort of main pieces of logistical information. Let's move on now to page 3 of our syllabus. So page 3 just has some general requirements and important dates. A lot of this we've already talked about, so I'll just sort of go over it very quickly just to sort of remind you about it. First of all, keep in mind that all the lecture materials for our class will be presented through videos posted on YouTube. You guys have on the front page of Canvas a link to our playlist for our class. It's just named Math 191 Winter 2020. If you've already looked at that playlist, you'll notice that there's a bunch of videos on there. I release the sort of videos and, in general, all of the course materials in batches leading up to the next exam. So if you've sort of poked around on Canvas or if you've looked at YouTube right now, you'll see that all the materials necessary for exam 1 have been posted. Once you guys take exam 1, I will then release all the videos necessary for exam 2, along with all the course materials for exam 2, so on and so forth. So we'll sort of do these, all the materials will be put out in these batches leading up to the next exam. I'll also update you guys regularly about the videos that have been posted, as well as a schedule for what you should watch. Since our class is very fast-paced, you guys will receive daily recommended schedules as announcements via Canvas. Now again, since this is an online asynchronous course, you can move at your own pace, but I would recommend trying to follow those schedules as closely as possible because you don't want things to pile up. So again, each day, if you go on and you see on Canvas, you'll see an announcement that has that daily schedule reminding you about what's coming up, as well as what I would recommend you accomplish that day. Keep in mind, the lecture videos are not the only thing that you have to sort of work through to be prepared in this class. Associated with the lecture materials are suggested exercises. As I mentioned, those are a mixture of problems that I've selected from your textbook as well as ones that I've written. You definitely want to do as many of these problems as possible to make sure you're comfortable with the topics and concepts presented in the videos. A lot of this, especially when we get to the more conceptual parts of this course, it can be sort of hard to gauge how much you really understand of it until you really sort of get into working on these practice problems, because with conceptual things, often it's easy to sort of watch the video and say, oh, that makes sense, but then when you actually have to put it into application, it can be a bit challenging. So always make sure you work through these practice problems, and if you ever have any questions about them, always feel free to ask, because that sort of discussion of those practice problems will often hash out the little extra details you need to have a solid understanding. All right. Second sort of general requirement, right? Remember that all the sort of documents necessary for the class will be found on our Canvas site. Our Canvas site is really the hub of the entire course. So if you ever need to locate something, it's going to be on that Canvas site. The only thing that isn't hosted directly through Canvas are the lecture videos themselves. That's just on a playlist on YouTube. But everything else is done through Canvas. So that includes the suggested exercises, your quizzes, your review guides, the exams, other supplemental materials, everything aside from those lecture videos themselves are hosted through Canvas. Remember, Canvas is also what we use to keep track of your grades. The Canvas grade is exactly what you have in the class, And also, it'll be a source of those announcements, those daily schedules. So Canvas, very, very important. Make sure you're checking it regularly. Third, just again a reminder, all the assignments are submitted electronically. There's a document on Canvas that explains how to do that. And remember, the big requirement is that it needs to be a single PDF format. All right. This right here is just a reminder of the communication methods. Remember, we have 3 major methods. We've got those weekly online office hours through Zoom. We've got those Canvas discussion boards, and we have direct email. So 3 major ways for reaching out and asking questions during our class. Okay, a couple of important dates here. The first important date is the first drop deadline, which is the deadline to drop the course without any notation on your permanent record and get a full refund. That is the first Thursday, the Thursday of week 1, which is Thursday, January 6th. This is an important deadline because, like I said, this is a very fast-paced and busy class, right? You have a few days at the beginning to see if the pace is appropriate for you. If it is, that's great, and I think you'll have a great semester in this class. If you find that the pace is a lot, given other responsibilities in your life, well, then you got to make that decision by January 6th so that you don't get any sort of notation and you can receive a full refund for the class. The second important deadline is the second drop date, which is the one where you do receive a W on your transcript. That is on Wednesday, January 26th. That actually also coincides with the date of our third midterm, which is the last of your midterms. You still have the final exam after that, but it'll be the third midterm, the last midterm. That's pretty good because that means you'll have gotten to take all 3 of your midterms and done 3 of the 4 quizzes by this deadline. So at that point, you'll have a pretty accurate picture of where you stand in the class. And if you're concerned about your grade at that point, you'll be able, you can always reach out and ask me about where you stand in the class, your chances of passing and everything like that. And if you decide that, you're at risk of a failing grade or a grade you're not happy with, this is the deadline to withdraw. Keep in mind, especially with an online class like this, if you do, for any reason, decide to drop the class, make sure you go ahead and officially withdraw from a class. There's no way, we don't really track attendance as an online class here, so if you just sort of stop participating, it's hard for me to judge if that's because you're planning on dropping the class or whatever, so make sure you take it as your responsibility, if you do decide to drop the class, to officially drop it through your My ECC. Finally, and this one should be pretty clear, but just reiterate it, you guys are responsible for all the sort of announcements that we issue out. All the communication is going to be electronic, so that's going to be sort of through your My ECC email and Canvas, so make sure you check your email regularly. Make sure you check Canvas regularly so that you're aware of all the things that are sort of going on in our class. If you're ever unsure, again, just feel free to reach out. Even if you're asking something that maybe I put right out in an announcement, I don't mind sort of reiterating or telling you that. Always feel free to reach out and ask those questions. All right, let's move to the last page of our syllabus. Couple cornerstones for success here, just things that I think will help. A lot of these I think apply sort of in general to math courses and probably in general to online courses, but let's just go over it. First one, making sure you keep up with the material. That's super important in an online class and super important in a condensed course. So I give you guys daily schedules. Try your best to follow those so that the material doesn't pile up. A lot of you should already know from taking other math courses that math concepts often build on each other. So it's very important to get a solid foundation of what we cover at the beginning so that what we cover in the middle makes more sense, so what we cover at the end makes more sense. The course really does build on itself, so it's very important to have a solid understanding at each moment. Also, keep in mind, you guys, since you're getting all your information through online lecture videos, reread your course notes and rewatch those lecture videos, right? That's one of the big advantages of having an online course is that you can pause the videos, you can go back, you can rewatch them. You really want to make that and take that to your advantage. I highly recommend that when you're watching the videos, you make notes of like important timestamps or things like that in the videos, because when you go back to rewatch, you don't want to have to rewatch necessarily the entire video. You probably want to be able to rewatch those key examples or those key theorems or those sort of key discussions. So taking good notes is maybe less about trying to take notes on everything that it's covered, and more taking notes about how to go back and find the crucial information. That sort of leads me into the second one, taking good notes, right? Remember, you have access to your notes and your materials for all your assignments. So being well organized, that again goes back to making notes of which videos have the most useful or most important examples. That's going to make all the assignments much easier. This is probably also a good moment to just make a quick comment about our lecture videos. When you guys start actually watching the content videos, you'll notice that there's always 2 links in the description of each video. The first link is always to the blank PDF that is covered in that video. That's provided so that if you do want to sort of follow along during the video, you have a blank document that you can fill out, and that'll keep you very sort of active and engaged with the lecture videos. I highly recommend that. Obviously, following along makes watching the videos take a bit longer because you'll be sort of trying to do the problems yourself or trying to sort of write in the information, but it's a very good way of staying sort of active and engaged with the material. The second link in the description of each video is the link to the document that I've created by the end of that video. That's really there for quick review. So if you ever need to just quickly see everything that was covered in a particular video without having to sort of watch through the whole video or scroll through the whole video, you can open up that second link, see everything that was written out, and then pick out the crucial example that you were trying to find. All right, the third and final, third cornerstone to success is making sure you study adequately before the exams. This also applies for the quizzes. Because this is a winter term, there's not a lot of assignments here. You guys really only have 4 quizzes, 3 exams, and a final. That means each one of them is very, very important for your overall grade. So you want to make sure you prepare adequately for each one of them. That means reviewing your notes, reviewing the course materials, and for the exams, I provide you guys a review guide for each exam. So make sure you work through that and ask about any of the questions on there that you're not sure about. Finally, you want to make use of resources. We have office hours, we have those Canvas discussion boards, we have our textbook, and you have each other in the class. I know it's harder to sort of connect and discuss in an online class, but hopefully you guys can still do that. You have the discussion boards to do that, and certainly if you want to find ways outside of Canvas to discuss the materials in the class, I highly recommend that. Math is often viewed as a sort of solo subject, but it really benefits from discussion and working together on things because different perspectives, each of you guys providing different perspectives on problems or on concepts, allows you to get deeper into the details and deeper into understanding the concepts. All right, we've got 2 last things. First one, academic honesty. Keep in mind that El Camino has a very strict academic honesty policy. If there's evidence of dishonesty in any academic work, disciplinary action can be taken. This usually means a failing grade on the exam or assignment, but there can be other ones more severe depending on sort of history or other instances of academic dishonesty. In an online class, one like ours, where we have open materials, I really want to make sure it's clear what we consider academic honesty and dishonesty. Like I said, you don't have to worry about accessing our materials, right? You're always allowed to look at our lecture videos, our practice problems, the textbook, any of the things that we're using in our class, you're always welcome to use for the quizzes and the exams. What is really important is that you make sure you always submit your own work and you always make use only of our course materials. What this really sort of boils down to is that this means that for assignments for this class, you must solve them using methods covered in our lecture videos. if you've taken a class like this before, you've seen other things, and you have an alternate way of approaching stuff, you can reach out and ask me about it sort of first. But in general, when in doubt, you should always use the methods covered in our class. That is really the only sort of overall requirement for how I want you guys to approach this class. Finally, we have our student with special needs and our ADA statement. So El Camino overall is committed to providing educational accommodations. Some of you might have accommodations through like our SRC. Certainly if you do have those, please send those to me as soon as possible so you get those accommodations. But I also believe that this statement applies to everyone in the sense of trying to make this class as beneficial to you all as possible. So that means that at any time during our term, if there are things that you feel would benefit you or feel that would help you or feel that in any way would just give you a little bit more from the class, always feel free to let me know, and I will do my best to try to accommodate you and try to make those sort of changes to help you with that. Math 191 to me is one of the most interesting classes, especially in our math department, because like I said, it's sort of an introduction to pure mathematics. And that means I think it's a really exciting time, even if your goal overall is not to go into mathematics, because it just gives you that sort of little glimpse into that realm. So I really think there's a lot to be gained in this class for everyone, and I want to make sure that you guys do gain as much as possible. So I guess in some ways it's saying the same thing we started with. Always feel free to reach out with questions. Let me know if there's things that I can sort of help you with. You've got a lot of different ways to do that. Always feel free to utilize the email, the Canvas discussion boards, or those office hours, whatever is easiest for you. So with all that being said, welcome to our class. I'm very excited to work with all of you, and I think it's going to be a busy, challenging, but ultimately very exciting 5 weeks of a winter semester. Welcome again, and let's get started.